Yo, what's up people? Today we are revisiting Ghost of Tsushima with the recently released Director's Cut for the PlayStation 5. This is going to be a follow-up to my previous video covering this game. I will not be going super in-depth into the main adventure, although I will be talking about it a little bit, particularly the ending, but this video will mainly focus on the changes brought about with the Director's Cut, as well as the DLC. Just to let you guys know right now, there will be major spoilers in this video, but only for the main story. I won't be spoiling the DLC story too heavily. The other video I have on this game explores the main adventure without spoilers, so check that out if that's what you're looking for. So, Ghost of Tsushima. I love this game. I honestly find it so much fun. It's my second favorite PlayStation exclusive behind The Last of Us. Bloodborne and God of War are incredible games that fully deserve their legendary status, but I just love the samurai aesthetic, and I cannot get enough of the combat and the stealth gameplay here. This is how you do it. Assassin's Creed wishes it had combat as good as this game's. I played the entire game again on New Game Plus, which, if you watched my previous video, is a feature I really wanted Sucker Punch to implement, and I'm glad to see it here. I know this was added before the Director's Cut was released, but I haven't played the game since then and thought now was the perfect time. I went with lethal mode for this playthrough because fuck it, why not, and I had a great time with the higher difficulty. The term lethal does not lie. You can only take about 2 hits before you're dead, which keeps you on your toes and encourages you to use everything in your arsenal. The duels are especially epic on lethal mode. There's very little room for error, and it's a real joy to play. Having said that though, I honestly think the game is busted on New Game Plus. You start with literally everything in your arsenal, and Jin is so powerful as a result. I don't think the game scales accordingly with that in mind, especially in the first act. Even on lethal mode, this game was so easy on New Game Plus, it was almost a joke. I said earlier how you can only take 2 hits before you're dead, but because you have so much resolve, you can just revive yourself 2 or 3 times with the Iron Will feature to try again. With the Ghost Armor on, a huge chunk of my enemies became terrified of me, which made them easy pickings. I have all the best charms, all the best equipment, every upgrade unlocked, Ghost Stance, and so on and so forth. Jin is broken on New Game Plus. Now I should say that this did not hinder my enjoyment of the game. I still had loads of fun picking guards off one by one. The melee combat still has that beautiful flow to it that is really enjoyable, and as I said before, the duels are easily the highlight of Lethal Plus mode. It's just something I could not help but notice whilst playing. I think New Game Plus is a little broken. There is a way to make the game even more difficult, however, and that's by purchasing curses from a special vendor only available in New Game Plus named Baku the Voiceless. He sells a bunch of items. It's mainly cosmetic stuff like different hats, masks, and armor dyes, but the charms are definitely the most interesting. The curses are just charms that are detrimental to your standing, like the Curse of Frailty for example, which makes it so that successful enemy attacks kill you in one shot, and it disables the Iron Will feature altogether. I did try this out, but I prefer having some wiggle room at least, so I did not use it for long. They're there if you want to use them, it's up to you. Anyway, the Director's Cut brought about quite a few changes that are worth mentioning. In terms of gameplay, the most notable change is the inclusion of a lock-on function. I experimented with this a little bit, and I don't know if it's just because I'm used to playing the game without it, but I found the lock-on function to be more cumbersome than anything. When you lock onto a target, the camera becomes focused on them as you'd imagine, but other enemies will attack you regardless, so I'm not really a big fan. It's not good to have tunnel vision in this game. If you do intend on using it, I'd recommend the basic lock-on as opposed to the one that swaps your target automatically when you defeat an enemy. The camera jumps around quite wildly with the latter option. I think the basic lock-on is better. A quality of life change they brought in is this saddlebag for your horse, which you can store some extra equipment in. Arrows, kunais, darts, wind chimes, bombs, all the secondary equipment and ammunition essentially. You can retrieve this stuff when you're next to your horse to top up your supply, which is a change I appreciate. If you're full on your ammunition load, then the extra pieces you pick up will automatically be sent to your horse, although there is a limit on how much it can carry as well. The rest of the gameplay changes are all related to the DLC, which I'll talk about in a bit. But we're on the PlayStation 5 this time, and the game runs like an absolute dream. The resolution was improved, and along with it an increased FPS rate from 30 to 60. Everything is so much smoother now, it's beautiful. As if the game was not gorgeous enough already, it is truly stunning on the PS5. And if you thought the load times were short on the PS4, they are literally non-existent on the PS5. Check this out. This is how far we have come, ladies and gentlemen, it's unbelievable. The game was also given lip-sync animations for the Japanese voiceover setting, haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, some alternative controller settings, and 3D audio support. I'm really happy with Sucker Punch's commitment here. It feels like they've made a series of really positive decisions on top of what is already a fantastic game. Before I talk about the DLC, I'm going to quickly touch on some of the main story now that I can do so without taking spoilers into account, and with that in mind, let this be a reminder that I will be spoiling the main adventure right now. It really is a tragic story for Jin. He had nothing but good intentions at heart, but by the end of the game, he has lost everything. It's like, yeah, we defeated the Mongols and reclaimed Tsushima Island, but at what cost? Clan Sakai is no more, and if you're like me and you choose to kill Lord Shimura at the end, Clan Shimura is no more as well. Jin outright states that he would do it all again knowing the consequences, but it is sad to see how things turned out. How great is this ending, by the way? I absolutely love the dialogue shared between Jin and Lord Shimura here, and the music is so damn good. It's such an emotionally powerful ending, definitely one of my favorites in my history of playing video games. I really do believe that killing Lord Shimura, fulfilling his dying wish, is the right thing to do. It feels like honoring his wishes is Jin's last act as a samurai before he fully commits to being the ghost and living the rest of his life in the shadows. Jin abandons his traditions, but Shimura still lives by them, and I think it's right to let him die by them as well. The choice to either kill him or let him live has divided opinion immensely, and I've seen some compelling arguments for both sides. It really says a lot about the quality of the game and the ending. It's a great example of how potent video games can be as storytelling mediums. Right, onto the DLC, and I'll try to keep spoilers to a minimum. We are headed to Iki Island, ladies and gentlemen. To access the DLC, you have to complete a quest called Journey to the Past, which becomes available once you reach Act 2 of the main adventure. I'd recommend you do this only after you complete the main game, because the challenge in the DLC is generally higher than what we've seen before. You learn that a tribe of Mongols named the Eagle Tribe have gained a foothold on the island. They are led by this mysterious shaman named the Eagle, and shortly after arriving, Jin is captured and is forced to drink some of her sacred medicine, a sort of poison that makes people lose their minds. After imbibing it, Jin experiences these strange visions where he hears the Eagle's voice and it torments him. Unsurprisingly, your primary objective is to kill the eagle and drive the Mongols off, but there's a bit more to it than that. Iki Island is the place where Jin's father was killed. He and the Sakai clan have a notorious reputation here. When Jin was still a kid, his father was ordered to pacify Iki Island, which at the time was under control of raiders and pirates. Jin's father is known as the Butcher of Iki, and the samurai are hated by the residents of the island as a result. The primary focus of the DLC's story is about Jin coming to terms with his father's actions and his passing. He of course feels somewhat responsible for his father's death, as he cowered away just as he was being killed. Jin learns about his father, not just through the visions he has, but also through the residents of the island, and naturally they have a completely different perspective of his actions. There are several memories scattered over the island where you take control of Jin as a child and relive some of his past with his father. It's a nice touch and I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Sucker Punch's decision to explore this aspect of Jin's past is an interesting choice, one that I was not expecting. It's a refreshing change-up to the story of the main game, and it adds a lot of depth to Jin's character. I found it compelling. I can't really say much more without getting into spoiler territory, but I very much enjoyed learning about Jin's father and seeing how Jin faces up to his past and the people of the island. My only real problem with this story is that I think it's rather short. Besides the opening quest and the epilogue, the DLC's narrative consists of 7 quests in total that should take you no longer than 4 hours max to fully complete. It's over in no time, and I would have liked to see these characters and themes given a bit more screen time. I feel there's more potential here than what we were given. Iki Island was not marketed as a separate DLC on its own, it's something that came with the director's cut, and there is a lot of content outside of the main narrative considering that, but I can't help but feel that more could have been explored here. Don't get me wrong, it's a great DLC, I just think the main narrative is a bit short. There's plenty of things to see and do outside of the story, of course. Most of it treads familiar ground, but there are some fresh concepts introduced. In terms of combat, there are only some minor differences here and there. Earlier I said that the DLC's challenge was generally greater than that of the main game, and part of the reason for that is because there is a new type of enemy introduced in the DLC, shamans. These are spear-wielding foes that perform a sort of chant which empowers their allies. It takes much longer to stagger the normal enemies when this is happening, so it is imperative that you take down the shamans first in every encounter. The normal enemies are a bit more capable than before as well. Some of them have brand new attacks that can catch you off guard, and a few of them can swap their weapons, meaning you have to change stance accordingly. Those are the only differences when it comes to the melee combat, but something else you can gain access to is the horse charge. By holding L1, you can have your horse charge down enemies and kill them instantly. It's pretty fun and a great option when you're being swarmed by opponents. Other than that, it's essentially more of what you find in the main game. There are 7 side quests in total, 2 mythic tales, a few badass duels, and the standard busy work. The mythic tales are great. One grants you some armor for your horse, which improves your horse charge, and another provides an extra set of armor for Jin, which alters his parry ability slightly. The latter culminates in a duel set in a wonderful locale, which I was very fond of. The island is a truly stunning landmass. It's bright, it's colourful, and I love how you're in close proximity with the ocean. I feel it adds to the natural aura of the place, and seeing the waves crashing down onto the beach is rather pleasant. There are some new open world activities you can get up to, one of which are the archery challenges. There are several of these, and I always love bow and arrow action, but trying to complete them all in under 7 seconds is very tough. I didn't get round to it in the end. Iki Island has animal sanctuaries where you play them some music using your flute. You have to tilt the controller up and down to stay on pitch. It's nothing mind-blowing by any means, but it's something a bit different, and petting the animals after is a good time. You receive major charms not available anywhere else in the game if you do so I'd say the rewards are worth it. One of my favourite things was the Hidden Cove tournament, where you duel a total of 4 opponents for a reward and to unlock the Crimson Die Merchant. The duels are easily one of the best parts of the entire game, so receiving more of them is something I'm always down for. This one has some unique stipulations, however. The first 2 opponents should be easy enough to defeat, but the third one is noticeably more challenging. You have to think outside the box a bit to defeat him. That's all I'll say about it. There are also these unique shrines on Iki Island, 3 in total, that serve as tributes to other games on the PlayStation. There's one for Bloodborne, God of War, and Shadow of the Colossus. Each shrine contains a riddle you must solve. You have to perform some obscure task like healing yourself or drawing your blade whilst wearing a certain armor set, and if you're successful you will receive a unique armor cosmetic. Check this out, you can actually see the hunter's badge on the Yharnam vestments. It's pretty cool. The Iki Island DLC is something I was not expecting, but it was a pleasant surprise. I would have liked to see more of the story and further exploration of these characters and themes, but I'm glad we got something at least. If you enjoyed the main game, then it is a nigh-on certainty that you will enjoy the DLC. It's more of the awesome samurai action from before, but with some fresh concepts thrown on top. All things considered, it's one of the best DLCs I have played since The Witcher 3. Even without taking the DLC into account, the Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is the definitive version of this game, without question. It brings with it some quality of life improvements, extra content, and a smoother, better game all round. The base game is one of my favourites in recent memory, and I really mean that. If you enjoy games like Horizon Zero Dawn or Assassin's Creed, then I highly recommend checking this one out. I think you'll get a lot of fun from the stealth and the combat here, just as I did. Thanks for watching.